I'm not gonna lie, at no point in this Albania trip have I had any idea what's going on, because my lovely friend Sara organised the entire thing and I've just been completely going with the flow. But she did warn me that there would be a very big hike on the trip, and today is that big hike day. So this is a day in the life budget backpack in Albania where we're doing the Valbone to Theth hike. And let me tell you, first of all, this is one of the best experiences I have ever done. So last night we stayed in a guest house in Valbone and we were given two options: leave at 6:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. and me and Sara straight away opted for the 6:30. I thought there was going to be a lot more people that opted for the same time as us, but there wasn't. There was only two other people out of a guest house of like 30 plus. So when we got up, us and the other two people jumped in the car and they took us to the start of the trail. The sun was just starting to rise. It was really peaceful until we got in the car, and it was the most mental drive ever. So bumpy, so chaotic. Why is this the case always in Albania? But we got to the start of the trail and we started heading off, and it was just so peaceful and so quiet, and the sun was starting to rise, and genuinely it was back to relaxing and beautiful again. This first hour was completely flat and we did accidentally make a slightly wrong turn, so I downloaded all trails at this point just so that we could cross-check the entire route and make sure we weren't going to make any more mistakes. Thankfully, I literally added about 30 seconds before we realised our mistake, and then we started walking uphill very slightly, but we were shattered already, so we stopped at this cafe to have some of our packed lunch. So we bought a water each and a coffee each, but the coffee was rubbish, so we kind of hid the fact that we didn't drink it. We poured the coffee into our water bottles and walked with that. So bless us, we're already an hour in and we've already stopped for a long break, but then it was onwards and upwards, and it felt like we did a lot of elevation quite quickly, but then literally exactly an hour later we stopped at another cafe. We're hardly the crazy avid hikers, to be honest, but yeah, we stopped at another cafe. They had fizzy drinks and energy drinks and waters and all things like that that were all naturally cooled down by the running spring water, which I thought was lovely. And they had a toilet, and I was really impressed to find it was actually a proper toilet, not a hole in the floor, like a proper toilet halfway up a mountain. So we were just sat down enjoying our drink, and we decided to comment on the fact that loads of people were walking past us. And I said to Sara, only psychopaths walk past a cafe on a walk. And then I realised that those psychopaths were the 7:30 people from our homestay. They'd overtaken us within 2 hours. These people started a full hour and a bit after us and were already overtaking us. So we realised that after this cafe we had to up our pace a little bit. There was just no rushing us. We were living life to the fullest. Carried on walking, and at this point we were walking with other people from our homestays, and at this point we were met with a sheer wall of rock, and we realised that that is what we've got to walk over. So we knew that this was going to be the toughest part from here on out, and it was, to be fair, definitely, but it was manageable. I felt okay. I just plodded on slowly and quite enjoyed it, to be honest. I wasn't too bad. Sara requested a sit down, so we had a quick sit down to keep our energy up, but then carried on the walk up. And definitely this was the toughest part, but it genuinely wasn't too bad as long as you took it slow enough. And the sun was out at this point, but it wasn't too hot at all, so it was pretty manageable. The only thing that really wasn't appreciated is there was a couple on their way down, and as you do, you ask them how long left to the top, and they told us, 10 to 15 minutes max. So when we got to 10 minutes and we looked like we were nowhere near the top, I thought, this doesn't feel right. When we got to 15 minutes and we were nowhere near the top, I thought, annoying that they've lied. When we got to 30 minutes and we were still nowhere near the top, I was pretty annoyed that they'd lied to us. Like, kick a horse when it's down, or whatever the saying is. It took a little while to get to the top, but honestly, again, it wasn't too bad. It was pretty steep and then flat, steep and then flat. And then for the very last 5-minute push, I carried Sara's bag up to motivate her to get to the top. But we made it, and it's cliche. It was a beautiful feeling after all these hours of hiking. Woohoo, we've made it, and it was absolutely stunning. It had taken us almost exactly 4 hours to get to the top, but obviously that is with 2 breaks. And we spent quite a while at the top taking pictures for other people, just enjoying the views and loving life. We walked back down again and realised that there's like a sister peak. It's the same level, it's no higher, but there is another view from it. So I decided I wanted to go up there, but Sara was conked out. She did not fancy that at all. So I left her and I went up the sister peak. This was stunning. I'm sorry, Sara, but it was definitely worth it. The views from this one were even better, and there was this really cool viewpoint where it looks like you're dangling off a cliff. I'm not. I'm actually fully on the cliff, but it kind of looks like it. It's quite a cool picture. And it was like a lot bigger peak, so it didn't feel as crowded as the first one. So honestly, if you're going to do one of the two, I'd recommend going to the one on the right-hand side. I spent a good while up here, so poor Sara was probably wondering if I'd fallen off or not. And then I made my way back down to her, and we had our packed lunch together. So in the end, we'd spent about an hour and 20 at the top, really appreciating the views, but then it was time to start our way down. The way down dragged on and on and on and was just never ending. It was really loose gravel and I did end up on my bum within 30 seconds, so I was really careful not to do that again the rest of the journey. But it was still stunning scenery, so I was enjoying myself. One of the things that none of us appreciated seeing though was watching the horses carrying people's luggage up and down the mountain. That was just not a nice scene at all. There is no need to bring a big bag with you. As you can see, everyone from Wanderers Hostel just takes what they can carry on their backs and leaves everything else in Skoda, so I urge everyone else to do the same. After an hour of walking down, we came to our third and final cafe of the hike, and this was again beautiful. And again, we helped ourselves to a nice cold drink, which was very, very appreciated. In the cafe, there was a puppy, and then as we carried on our walk, we walked for about an hour. There was the puppy again. Carried on a walk for half an hour. There was the puppy again. It was following people down the trail, and all of us were concerned that maybe it belonged to the cafe. And when we stopped for a break, it also stopped for a break, and it was just conked out, bless it. So we gave it a little bit of food, which obviously encouraged it to stay with us, but it was shattered, the poor thing. So I gave it some water, and it carried on following us all the way down the mountain, honestly, for hours. But then we finally ended up in some form of civilization, and we had made it to Theth. And the only thing we had left to do was walk through Theth and get to our homestay. So we were honestly only about 5 to 10 minutes away from our homestay when I turned to Sara and said, "Oh my god, isn't it funny that after that entire hike I only fell on my bum one time and you haven't even fallen? That's crazy." And before I've even finished my sentence, I have fallen over and scraped my knees. I actually hate myself. It is the stupidest thing in the world to do, to fall over 5-10 minutes away from your homestay. But it is what it is. We had a giggle about it, whatever, and we just carried on plodding along until we finally got there. We had been hiking for 9.5 hours at this point, and we were following signs towards our homestay called Guest House Dreni. This guest house is so stunning, and I will do a full video about it all tomorrow, because honestly, I cannot recommend it enough. We absolutely loved it. We checked in, we were in like an annex room of this log cabin. It was a really comfortable room. We just chilled in our room for a few hours before getting called for dinner. It's a family style dinner included in the stay, and honestly the food is exactly what you need after a full day of hiking. It's so lovely. And then they put a campfire up and you can sit enjoying the campfire with everyone before we had an early night back in bed. If anyone's got any questions at all about the hike, then please feel free to comment down below and like and follow for more.